The number 2 train rattled through the tunnels beneath Manhattan like a metal beast, its fluorescent lights flickering with each jolt of the tracks. Aisha Turner sat in the corner seat of the last car, her head pressed against the cool window, watching the darkness blur past. Her reflection stared back at her. Brown skin dull with exhaustion, natural hair pulled into a messy bun, dark circles under eyes that had seen too much sadness for someone only 28 years old. Her shift at Child Protective Services had run 14 hours. 14 hours of removing children from homes that smelled like meth and neglect. 14 hours of watching mothers sob as the system took their babies away. 14 hours of carrying other people's trauma in her chest, while her own grief sat like a stone in her stomach. 6 months. It had been 6 months since she'd held Naomi in her arms and felt her daughter's last breath against her neck. Premature birth at 26 weeks. 2 days of hope in the NICU before her tiny heart simply stopped. The doctors said there was nothing anyone could do. That sometimes babies this early just couldn't make it. But Aisha's body didn't understand that. Her breasts still swelled with milk her daughter would never drink. The lactation consultant had given her pills to dry up her supply, but Aisha couldn't bring herself to take them. This milk was the last physical connection to Naomi, the last proof that her baby had been real, that those 2 days of motherhood hadn't been a dream. She wore nursing pads in her bra to catch the leaks. Even now, at 11:47 p.m. on a Thursday night, she could feel the dampness spreading across her shirt beneath her jacket, her body still mourning what her mind was trying to accept. The subway car was nearly empty. An old man slept at the far end, his head bobbing with each bump. 2 teenage girls scrolled through their phones, earbuds blocking out the world. And across from Aisha, near the doors, sat a young Korean woman in expensive clothes holding a screaming infant. The baby's cries cut through the subway noise like a knife. High-pitched, desperate, the sound of a child in genuine distress. The woman holding him looked panicked, bouncing him awkwardly, trying to shove a bottle into his mouth. But the baby turned his head away, screaming louder, his face turning red. "Come on, Minjun, please," the woman pleaded in accented English. "You have to eat. Your father will kill me if you don't eat." Aisha tried to look away, tried to mind her own business. She dealt with children in crisis all day. She didn't need to take on more at night. But the baby's cries triggered something primal in her chest. Her milk let down suddenly, soaking through her nursing pads. She pressed her arm against her breasts, trying to hide the wetness spreading across her shirt. The Korean woman was near tears now. "Please, Minjun, please stop crying." Aisha's eyes traveled to the other end of the car, and that's when she saw him. A man sat alone in the shadows near the conductor's door. Korean, early 30s maybe, wearing a black suit that probably cost more than Aisha's monthly rent. His face was carved from stone, all sharp angles and controlled stillness. But his eyes, dark and intense, were locked on the crying baby, with an expression Aisha recognized immediately, devastation barely held in check. This wasn't a stranger watching. This was the father. And something about the way he sat there, not intervening, not approaching, told Aisha this was a test. He was watching the woman fail, watching his son scream, and doing nothing. The baby's cries grew weaker, more desperate. Aisha saw his little lips, the way they were starting to turn slightly pale. This child was starving. Before she could talk herself out of it, Aisha stood and crossed the swaying subway car. The Korean woman looked up at her with wide, frightened eyes. "I'm a social worker," Aisha said gently, which was technically true even if it wasn't the whole truth. "How long has he been refusing the bottle?" 2 days, the woman whispered. "He won't eat. We've tried everything. Different bottles, different formulas. The doctors say nothing is wrong with him, but he just screams and screams." Aisha looked at the baby. 3 months old, maybe. Beautiful, with a shock of black hair in his father's face. "May I?" The woman hesitated, then handed over the infant. The moment Minjun was in Aisha's arms, something shifted in her chest. The baby was so light, too light. His cries were weakening because he was exhausted from hunger. "I might be able to help," Aisha heard herself say. "But it's unconventional." "Anything," the woman said desperately. "Please." Aisha's eyes flicked to the man in the shadows. He was watching her now, his whole body tense. She couldn't read his expression, but she felt the weight of his attention like a physical thing. She turned her back to the car, facing the window, and unbuttoned her shirt with shaking fingers. She'd nursed Naomi in public before, those 2 precious days in the hospital. She knew how to be discreet. Her jacket draped over her shoulder, creating a privacy shield. Minjun's cries stopped the moment he caught the scent of milk. His little mouth opened instinctively, searching. When Aisha brought him to her breast, he latched on immediately, desperately, and the relief that flooded through her body was almost painful. This was what her body had been made for. This was why the milk wouldn't stop. Not for Naomi anymore, but maybe for this moment. For this hungry baby who needed her. She looked up at her reflection in the window and gasped. The man in the black suit was standing right behind her. She could see him in the glass, barely 3 feet away, watching his son nurse at a stranger's breast. His expression was no longer controlled. It was raw, vulnerable, devastated, and grateful all at once. Their eyes met in the reflection. Aisha's breath caught. "Thank you," he said quietly. His voice was deep, accented, and shaking with barely suppressed emotion. "You're saving his life. He was hungry," Aisha whispered, unable to look away from his reflection. "Babies shouldn't go hungry. His mother died," the man said, and Aisha heard the grief beneath the words. 3 months ago. He was born. She died. Formula isn't enough for him. The doctors said he needs mother's milk. But I can't. His voice broke. "I can't give him that." Aisha's throat tightened. "I'm sorry for your loss. And I'm sorry for yours," he said, his eyes dropping to where Minjun nursed. "I can see it in your eyes. You've lost a child too." How did he know? But when Aisha thought about it, she understood. Grief recognized grief. 6 months ago, she admitted. "My daughter. She was born too early." The subway car fell silent, except for the rumble of the tracks and Minjun's contented nursing sounds. The Korean woman had moved away, giving them space, her eyes wide with shock. "What's your name?" the man asked. "Aisha. Aisha Turner." "Park Jae-sung," he said. "That's my son, Minjun. You're the first person who's been able to feed him in 2 days." Minjun was drinking deeply now, his little fist curled against Aisha's skin. She could feel him gaining strength with every swallow. When he finally pulled away, milk drunk and satisfied, his eyes were closing in contentment. Aisha buttoned her shirt and turned to face Park Jae-sung directly. Up close, he was even more intimidating. Tall, broad-shouldered, with a scar along his jaw that suggested violence in his past. But the way he looked at his son was pure tenderness. "He needs to eat regularly," Aisha said, falling into her professional social worker voice. "If he won't take bottles, you need to find a wet nurse or—" "I need to find you," Jae-sung interrupted. His eyes locked with hers. "How much do I pay you to do that again?" "You don't pay me. I don't, that's not something I do." "Name your price." His voice was flat, brooking no argument. "My son is dying without mother's milk. You have milk. I will pay whatever you ask." The subway was slowing, approaching Aisha's stop. "I have to go," she said, handing Minjun back to him. But the baby immediately started to fuss, reaching back for her. Jae-sung's jaw tightened. "He knows you now. Look at him. He's trying to get back to you." "I'm sorry," Aisha said, grabbing her bag. "I'm sorry, but I can't. I don't even know you. This was just I was trying to help." The doors opened. Aisha stepped onto the platform, her heart hammering. She could feel Jae-sung's eyes on her back, could hear Minjun starting to cry again. "Wait," Jae-sung called out. But Aisha was already walking away, climbing the stairs to the street level. Her shirt was soaked with milk, her whole body trembling with adrenaline and something else she couldn't name. She'd just breastfed a stranger's baby on the subway. She'd just locked eyes with the most intense man she'd ever met. She'd just felt needed for the first time since Naomi died. And now she was running away from it. She made it halfway up the block before she heard footsteps behind her. "Miss Turner?" Aisha turned. Jae-sung stood there, Minjun in his arms, his expensive suit somehow still perfect despite everything. The Korean woman from the subway hovered nearby, looking terrified. "How did you the subway already left?" "I have resources," Jae-sung said simply. "We got off at the emergency exit between cars. Please, just listen to what I have to say. I don't think. $10,000 a week," he said. "To live in my home and feed my son until he can be weaned. 6 months, maybe less. Full medical care, private room, anything you need. Plus a bonus of $100,000 at the end." Aisha's mind went blank. That was more money than she made in a year. More money than she'd ever had at once. "I'm not. I can't just move in with a stranger." "Then don't think of me as a stranger." Think of me as a desperate father who will do anything to keep his son alive. Jae-sung stepped closer, and Aisha caught the scent of expensive cologne mixed with something else. Danger, maybe. Power. I saw how you held him, how gentle you were. My son has been screaming for 2 days straight, and you gave him peace in 5 minutes. That's worth more than money to me. Minjun was watching Aisha now, his dark eyes focused on her face. He made a small, happy sound and reached out one tiny hand. You don't know anything about me, Aisha protested weakly. I know you work in Child Protective Services at the Bronx office. I know you take the subway home at midnight because you can't afford a car. I know you lost your daughter and you're still grieving. I know you're kind enough to help a crying baby even when you're exhausted. His voice softened. I know you need this as much as Minjun does. How do you know where I work? Jae-sung's expression didn't change. I told you. I have resources. A chill ran down Aisha's spine. This man had investigated her in the 15 minutes since the subway. What kind of person had resources like that? What do you do? She asked. For a living, I mean. Import and export, Jae-sung said smoothly. Family business. Very successful. It was a lie. Aisha had worked with enough criminals in her job to recognize the careful evasion. But Minjun was snuggling against his father's chest, already getting fussy again, and Aisha felt her milk let down at the sound of his whimper. I need time to think about it, she said. You have until tomorrow. Jae-sung pulled out a business card and a pen. He wrote something on the back. This is my private number. Call me by noon tomorrow with your answer. After that, I'll find someone else. They both knew he was lying. They both knew he wouldn't find anyone else, that Minjun had chosen her somehow. Aisha took the card. Her fingers brushed his, and electricity shot up her arm. His eyes widened slightly, he'd felt it too. Tomorrow, she whispered. She watched him walk away, climbing into a black Mercedes that had appeared out of nowhere. The Korean woman got in the front seat. Jae-sung sat in the back with Minjun, and just before the door closed, Aisha saw him looking at her through the window. The car drove away, leaving Aisha standing on the empty Bronx street at midnight, holding a business card from a man who'd offered her a fortune to nurse his baby. She looked down at the card. Park Jae-sung, CEO, Park International Holdings. On the back, in sharp, precise handwriting, please save him, please save me, Jae. Aisha pressed the card to her chest and started walking home. She had a decision to make, and deep down, she already knew what that decision would be. Aisha didn't sleep that night. She lay in her studio apartment, 400 square feet of peeling paint and radiator heat that barely worked, staring at the ceiling. The business card sat on her nightstand, practically glowing in the dark. $10,000 a week. In 6 months, that was $240,000, plus the $100,000 bonus. $340,000 total. That kind of money could change her life. She could pay off her student loans, send money to her mother in Atlanta, who'd been working 2 jobs since Aisha's father died. She could actually save for a future instead of drowning in bills. But it wasn't about the money, was it? If she was being honest with herself, she'd been thinking about Minjun all night, the way he'd latched onto her breast with such desperate relief, the way his little body had relaxed in her arms, the way feeding him had felt like the first right thing she'd done since Naomi died. Her body was still producing milk for a baby who was gone. Maybe this was why. Maybe the universe, God, fate, whatever you wanted to call it, had kept her milk flowing for this exact moment. She picked up her phone and stared at Jae-sung's number. It was 5:47 a.m., still hours before her self-imposed deadline of noon. Her phone rang, making her jump. Unknown number. Hello? Miss Turner. Jae-sung's voice was rough, like he hadn't slept either. I'm sorry to call so early, but Minjun won't stop crying. He's refused every bottle. I think he's asking for you. In the background, Aisha could hear the baby's wails. Her breasts immediately responded, milk leaking through her nightshirt. Where are you? She asked. My apartment, Upper East Side. I can send a car for you. Aisha looked around her tiny studio. At the picture of Naomi on her dresser, the only photo she had where her daughter's eyes were open. At the pile of bills on her desk. At the life she was barely surviving. Send the address, she said. I'll take the subway. A car will be there in 20 minutes. Don't argue. He hung up before she could protest. 19 minutes later, Aisha stood on her street corner in jeans and a clean shirt, her natural hair pulled back, watching a black Mercedes pull up. The same car from last night. The driver got out and opened the rear door for her without a word. The drive from the Bronx to the Upper East Side usually took 45 minutes. This driver made it in 25, navigating through early morning traffic like he was being chased. The building Jae-sung lived in was the kind Aisha had only seen in movies. A doorman in uniform opened the car door. Another doorman greeted her in the marble lobby. A private elevator required a keycard to operate. The elevator opened directly into a penthouse apartment that took up the entire floor. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Central Park. Modern furniture that probably cost more than her annual salary. Art on the walls that looked original. And in the middle of all this luxury, Jae-sung paced with his screaming son, looking like he hadn't slept in days. "Thank God," he breathed when he saw her. "He won't stop. Nothing works. I've tried everything." Aisha crossed the living room and held out her arms. Jae-sung handed Minjun over immediately, and the baby's cries quieted to whimpers the moment he recognized her scent. "Hey, sweet boy," Aisha murmured, settling onto the leather couch. "I'm here. It's okay." She unbuttoned her shirt, and Minjun latched on with the same desperate relief as last night. The apartment fell silent except for his nursing sounds. Jae-sung collapsed into a chair across from her, his head in his hands. Now that the crisis was over, Aisha could really look at him. His suit was wrinkled, his hair messed up like he'd been running his hands through it all night. The controlled, powerful man from the subway had been replaced by an exhausted father at the end of his rope. "I can't do this anymore," he said quietly. "I can't watch him starve himself. The doctors say there's nothing medically wrong with him, that some babies just refuse bottles after they've had breast milk. His mother was able to nurse him for 3 days before his voice broke, before she died. And now he remembers what he's lost, and he won't accept anything else." "How did she die?" Aisha asked gently. "If you don't mind me asking." Jae-sung was quiet for a long moment. "Complications during delivery. They said her blood pressure spiked, that she had a seizure. By the time they stabilized her enough for an emergency C-section, the damage was done. She held Minjun for maybe 10 minutes before she was gone." "I'm so sorry." "Her name was Soo-yeon. We were arranged to marry by our families, but we fell in love anyway. She was funny and kind, and she made me want to be better than I was." He looked up, and Aisha saw tears in his eyes. Minjun has her smile. When he's not screaming, when he's happy, he smiles just like she did. Aisha's heart broke for him. "What about formula? Have you tried everything? Every brand? Every type?" "He takes maybe an ounce and then screams. He's losing weight. The pediatrician said if he doesn't start eating properly within the week, we'd need to consider a feeding tube." Jae-sung's hands clenched into fists. "I won't let them do that to him. He's suffered enough." Minjun was drinking deeply now, one little hand pressed against Aisha's skin. She looked down at him and felt that same rightness she'd felt on the subway. "Okay," she said softly. Jae-sung's head snapped up. "Okay? I'll do it. I'll move in and help you with Minjun, but I have conditions. Anything. I get my own room with a lock on the door. I continue working at CPS. I can't just quit my job. And this is strictly professional. I'm here to help your son. Not," she couldn't even say it. "Not what? Not fall into this man's dangerous orbit? Not feel the attraction she'd felt the moment their eyes met?" "Understood," Jae-sung said. "Completely professional. You have my word. And I want to know the truth about what you do. Not the import-export lie. The real truth." Jae-sung's expression went carefully blank. "Why do you think I'm lying? I've worked in social services for 5 years. I've interviewed gang members, drug dealers, domestic abusers, human traffickers. I know what evasion looks like." Aisha met his eyes steadily. "If I'm going to live in your home with your son, I need to know what kind of danger I'm walking into." For a long moment, Jae-sung just stared at her. Then he stood and walked to the window, his hands in his pockets. "My family has business interests in import-export, real estate, and entertainment. Some of those interests are perfectly legitimate. Some exist in legal gray areas. And some..." He paused. "Some would land me in federal prison if the authorities had proof. Are you in the Mafia? That's a very Western term for a very Korean organization." He turned to face her. "But yes. My father built an empire. I inherited it when he died 10 years ago. I'm trying to transition everything to legitimate business, but it's complicated. I have enemies who would rather I fail. People who would use anything and anyone against me to take what's mine, including Minjun, especially Minjun." Jae-sung's jaw tightened. which is why he needs protection. Why anyone close to him needs protection. If you accept this job, Aisha, you'll be under my protection too. Guards, secure locations, careful monitoring of your movements. It's for your safety. You're telling me I'll be a target. I'm telling you that you're already a target the moment you fed my son last night. He crossed back to her, his expression intense. I had people following you to make sure you got home safely. I have people watching your apartment building right now. Because if my enemies saw what happened on that subway, if they know there's a woman who can feed Minjun, they'll use that against me. Aisha's blood ran cold. You should have told me that before I got in the car this morning. Would you have come? She looked down at Minjun, who was still nursing peacefully, completely unaware of the danger surrounding him. Yes, she admitted. I still would have come. Jae-sung knelt in front of the couch, bringing himself to her eye level. Then stay. Help him. Let me keep both of you safe. I promise you, Aisha Turner, no one will hurt you while you're under my protection. I would burn this entire city to ashes before I let anyone touch you or my son. The intensity in his voice sent shivers down her spine. This was a man who meant every word. A man who would absolutely commit violence to protect what was his. I need to see my apartment, Aisha said. Pack my things properly. Give notice at my job. You'll keep your job. I'll arrange your schedule around Minjun's feeding times, and I'll have movers pack your apartment this afternoon. Anything you want to keep will be stored or brought here. You've already decided I'm staying. No, Jae-sung said quietly. I'm hoping you'll decide to stay. There's a difference. Minjun finished nursing and pulled away with a satisfied sigh. Aisha buttoned her shirt and lifted him to her shoulder to burp him. The baby let out a small burp and then rested his head against her neck, already falling asleep. He's never this calm, Jae-sung whispered, watching them. Even with Soo-yeon he was fussy, but with you he's peaceful. Babies can sense energy, Aisha said, rubbing Minjun's back in gentle circles. If you're stressed, they're stressed. If you're calm, they calm down. Then you must be the calmest person in New York. He smiled, and the expression transformed his entire face. He went from dangerous to devastating in a heartbeat. Aisha looked away, her cheeks warming. Where would I sleep? The guest wing has 3 bedrooms. Take whichever one you like. I'll have Mrs. Kim, she's my housekeeper. Set up the nursery next to your room so you can hear Minjun at night. He stood and held out his hands. May I? Aisha carefully transferred the sleeping baby to his father. Jae-sung held Minjun with practiced ease, his large hands gentle and sure. Looking at them together, this dangerous man holding his tiny son with such tenderness made Aisha's heart ache. I'll show you the apartment, Jae-sung said quietly, walking toward the hallway. Then we can discuss details. The guest wing was larger than Aisha's entire apartment. 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, a sitting area with its own kitchenette. The master bedroom had a king-sized bed, a walk-in closet, and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the park. This is too much, Aisha protested. This is what I have to offer. Jae-sung opened the door to the room next door. And this will be Minjun's nursery. The room was already set up with a crib, changing table, rocking chair, and shelves full of toys. Everything was in shades of soft blue and cream. Beautiful and expensive, but somehow cold, like it had been designed by someone who didn't know what a nursery should feel like. Soo-yeon never got to see it, Jae-sung said, reading her expression. She died before we moved here. I had decorators set it up based on what she'd picked out. But it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like him. We can change it, Aisha said gently. Make it warmer, more personal. You'd do that? If I'm going to be here for 6 months, I want Minjun to have a room that feels like home. Jae-sung looked at her for a long moment, something shifting in his expression. Thank you, he said quietly. Not just for this, for everything. The moment stretched between them, heavy with unspoken things. Aisha was suddenly very aware of how close they were standing, how tall he was, how his cologne smelled like cedar and something darker. I should go pack, she said, breaking the spell. The car will take you home and wait. Bring back whatever you need for tonight. The movers will handle the rest tomorrow. Jae-sung shifted Minjun to his shoulder. And Aisha? Welcome to our family. Temporary though it may be. But as Aisha rode the elevator down to the waiting car, she had a feeling that nothing about this arrangement would be temporary. She was walking into Jae-sung's dangerous world, and she had a suspicion she'd never be able to walk back out. Aisha moved into the penthouse that same night. She packed a duffel bag with clothes, toiletries, and the photo of Naomi she kept on her nightstand. Everything else could wait for the movers. Mrs. Kim, the housekeeper, was a Korean woman in her 50s with kind eyes and efficient hands. She showed Aisha where everything was, explained the apartment systems, and made it clear that Aisha could ask for anything she needed. "Mr. Park is good man, Mrs." Kim said in careful English as she helped Aisha unpack. "Very good father. Very sad since wife died. But Minjun needs mother love. You give that, yes?" "I'll try," Aisha said. "You do more than try already. I see how baby looks at you. He knows, Mrs." Kim tapped her chest over her heart. Babies always know. That first night, Aisha woke up every 2 hours to feed Minjun. She'd set up the baby monitor, but Jae-sung had told her he was a light sleeper and would bring the baby to her when he cried. At 2 a.m. there was a soft knock on her door. Aisha, already awake and leaking milk, called out, "Come in." Jae-sung entered carrying a fussy Minjun. He wore black silk pajama pants and nothing else, his chest bare, his hair messy from sleep. Aisha tried very hard not to stare at the defined muscles of his abdomen or the scars that marked his skin, evidence of a violent life. "He's hungry," Jae-sung said unnecessarily. Aisha was wearing a nursing tank top and shorts, suddenly very conscious of how little clothing separated them. She took Minjun and settled into the rocking chair by the window, the Manhattan skyline glittering behind her. Jae-sung should have left, should have gone back to his own room, but instead, he sat on the edge of her bed, watching his son nurse in the dim light. "Can I ask you something?" Aisha said quietly. "Anything. On the subway, why didn't you help? Why did you just sit there while Minjun screamed?" Jae-sung was quiet for a moment. "I was testing my assistant, Ji-woo, the woman who was holding him. She's supposed to be capable of caring for him while I work, but she's been incompetent. I needed to see how bad it was before I fired her." "You were going to fire her on the subway?" "I was going to fire her when we got home." He ran a hand through his hair. "I know it sounds cruel, but I can't have someone unreliable caring for my son. In my world, incompetence gets people killed. So you hired me instead." "I didn't hire you. You saved him of your own free will. Everything that came after was just me trying to keep that gift in my life." His eyes met hers. "You're not like Ji-woo, Aisha. You're not doing this because I'm paying you. You're doing it because you care. I saw it on the subway. You looked at my son, and you saw a baby who needed help. Not a payday, not an obligation, just a child in need. You don't know me well enough to know what I see, don't I?" Jae-sung leaned forward, his elbows on his knees. "I know you're a social worker who fights for children every day even though it breaks your heart. I know you loved your daughter so much that you can't bring yourself to stop producing milk for her. I know you're brave enough to get in a car with a man you suspect is a criminal because a baby was crying. That tells me everything I need to know about who you are." Aisha's throat tightened. "You investigated me." "Of course I did. I wouldn't let just anyone near my son." He paused. "I know about Naomi's father too. How he left you when you were 6 months pregnant. How you raised her alone for those 2 days in the NICU. How you buried her by yourself because your family couldn't afford to fly in from Atlanta." Tears burned Aisha's eyes. "You had no right. I had every right. You're in my home, feeding my child. I need to know everything about you to keep you safe." His voice softened. "And I'm sorry. For your loss. For your pain. For all of it." Minjun had fallen asleep at her breast, milk drunk and peaceful. Aisha carefully detached him and buttoned her top. Jae-sung stood and took his son, cradling him with practiced ease. "Get some sleep," he said. "He'll be hungry again in a few hours." But at the door, he paused. "Aisha, thank you. For being here. For helping him. For—" He stopped, seeming to struggle with words. "For making this place feel less empty." He left before she could respond, taking Minjun back to the nursery. Aisha sat in the rocking chair for a long time after, watching the city lights and wondering what she'd gotten herself into. The next few days fell into a rhythm. Aisha would feed Minjun every 3 hours, around the clock. Between feedings, she worked remotely for CPS, handling paperwork and phone consultations from Jae-sung's home office. Mrs. Kim cooked Korean and American food, learning Aisha's preferences. The movers brought boxes from her apartment, and Aisha slowly made the guest wing feel like hers. Jae-sung was gone most days, handling business. He never specified what that meant, and Aisha learned not to ask. But he was always home by 6 p.m. for dinner, always took Minjun for an hour afterward so Aisha could rest, and always appeared within seconds when the baby cried at night. On the 4th day, Aisha decided to redecorate Minjun's nursery. She ordered warm mustard yellow curtains, a soft cream rug, wooden shelves for books instead of toys. She hung photos of Jae-sung and Soo-yeon so Minjun would grow up knowing his mother's face. When Jae-sung saw it that evening, he stood in the doorway for a long moment without speaking. "Do you hate it?" Aisha asked nervously. "I can change it back." "I love it." His voice was rough. He pointed to a photo of Soo-yeon laughing, her head thrown back, joy radiating from the image. "That's exactly how I want him to remember her. Happy, full of light." "Tell me about her," Aisha said, sitting in the rocking chair with Minjun. "I want to know who she was." So Jae-sung told her. About Soo-yeon's love of bad romantic comedies, her terrible cooking that she insisted was gourmet, the way she'd sing off-key in the shower, how she'd wanted Minjun so desperately, had been so happy when she got pregnant. "She would have loved you," Jae-sung said eventually. "She would have been grateful that you're taking care of him." "You can't know that." "I can, because Soo-yeon believed in fate, in things happening for a reason." He moved closer to the rocking chair, close enough that Aisha could feel the heat of his body. "She would have said that you were on that subway at exactly the right moment because Minjun needed you. That your milk didn't dry up because it was meant for him." "Do you believe that?" Aisha whispered. Jae-sung crouched down in front of her, his face level with hers. "I didn't. I thought the world was random and cruel. But then you appeared, and I started to wonder." The air between them felt electric. Aisha's breath caught as Jae-sung's hand came up, his fingers barely brushing her cheek. "I should go," he said roughly, standing abruptly. "I have a late meeting. Mrs. Kim will be here if you need anything." He was gone before Aisha could process what had almost happened. That night, at the 2 a.m. feeding, Jae-sung didn't bring Minjun to her room. Instead, he called through the baby monitor. "Can you come to the nursery? I need to show you something." Aisha found him standing by the crib, fully dressed in a suit despite the hour. Minjun was awake but not crying, just making small baby sounds. "What's wrong?" Aisha asked. "Nothing's wrong, but I need you to understand something." Jae-sung's expression was serious. "There are going to be nights when I can't be here, when business requires me to be somewhere else. On those nights, you'll have 2 guards stationed outside your door. You'll have a panic button that goes directly to my head of security. And you'll have this." He handed her a small handgun. Aisha stared at it like it might bite her. "I don't know how to use a gun." "You'll learn. Tomorrow my security team will teach you. Because if something happens, if someone gets past my guards and tries to hurt you or Minjun, I need to know you can protect him." "Jae-sung, this is insane." "This is my world," he said flatly. "And now it's yours too. I'm not trying to scare you, Aisha. I'm trying to keep you alive." He was right. She'd known what she was walking into. But the reality of it, of holding a gun, of learning to shoot, of accepting that people might try to hurt her, made it all suddenly very real. "Who are your enemies?" she asked. Specifically, Jae-sung walked to the window, looking out at the city. "The Volkov brothers. Russian mob trying to move into my territory. The Zhen family out of Flushing. Chinese organization that thinks I've gotten soft since Soo-yeon died. And various others who would love to see me fall. Would they really hurt a baby? They'd hurt anything I love to get to me." He turned back to her, his expression fierce. "Which is why I need you to be careful. Why I need you to understand that this isn't just a job anymore. You're part of my life now. You're visible. And that makes you a target." Aisha looked down at Minjun, who was starting to fuss, ready to eat. "Then teach me," she said quietly. "Teach me how to protect him." Jae-sung's expression softened. He crossed to her and took her face in his hands, his thumbs brushing her cheekbones. "You're brave, so much braver than you know." "I'm terrified," Aisha admitted. "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He leaned down, his forehead almost touching hers. "But I promise you, Aisha, no one will hurt you while I'm alive. I will protect you with everything I have." "Why?" The question came out as a whisper. "I'm just the wet nurse. Why do you care so much about protecting me?" Jae-sung's eyes searched hers, and Aisha saw the truth before he spoke it. "Because somewhere in the last 4 days, you stopped being just anything. You became essential. To Minjun, yes, but also to me. His thumb traced her lower lip. I look forward to coming home now. I listen for your voice when I walk through the door. I find excuses to be in whatever room you're in. And I know that's not professional. I know that's not what we agreed to. But I can't help it. Jae-sung. You don't have to say anything. I just needed you to know. So that when I'm overly protective, when I insist on guards and guns and security measures, you understand it's not just about Min-jun. It's about you too. He pulled away before Aisha could respond, grabbing his jacket from the chair. Feed him. Get some sleep. I'll be back before breakfast. Then he was gone, leaving Aisha alone with a hungry baby and a heart that was beating far too fast. She fed Min-jun in the rocking chair, her mind spinning. 4 days. She'd been here 4 days, and already the lines were blurring. Already she was thinking about Jae-sung's hands on her face, the intensity in his eyes, the way he'd almost kissed her. This was dangerous in more ways than one. She was falling for a man who killed people for a living, a man whose world could swallow her whole. But as Min-jun nursed and the city sparkled beyond the windows, Aisha realized she was already too far gone to turn back. She'd crossed the threshold into Jae-sung's life, and she was starting to suspect she'd never leave. 2 weeks into living with Jae-sung, Aisha's life had transformed completely. She'd given notice at CPS, negotiating a part-time remote position so she could focus on Min-jun. She'd learned to shoot at Jae-sung's private range in the building's basement, her natural steadiness making her a decent shot. She'd met some of his security team's stoic Korean men, who called her Mrs. Park, despite her corrections. And she'd fallen into a domestic routine with Jae-sung that felt dangerously like a real family. They had breakfast together every morning. Jae-sung would hold Min-jun while Aisha ate, bouncing the baby on his knee and making silly faces that made Min-jun giggle. They'd discuss their days. She'd tell him about her CPS cases. He'd give vague details about meetings and negotiations. Evenings were spent in the living room. Aisha would feed Min-jun while Jae-sung worked on his laptop, both of them comfortable in the silence. After Min-jun went to bed, they'd talk, really talk, about everything and nothing. Jae-sung told her about growing up in Seoul, about the pressure to take over his father's organization, about the violence he'd witnessed and committed. He didn't try to justify it or make excuses. He just told her the truth and let her decide what to do with it. Aisha told him about her childhood in Atlanta, her mother's strength as a single parent after her father's death, her decision to become a social worker, the joy and devastation of those 2 days with Naomi. "Do you ever regret it?" Jae-sung asked one night. They were on the couch, a bottle of wine open between them, the city lights creating a backdrop of stars. "If you'd known you'd only have her for 2 days, would you have chosen differently?" "Never," Aisha said immediately. "Those 2 days were the most precious of my life. I got to hold her, feed her, tell her I loved her. Some people never get that." "That's how I feel about Soo-yeon," Jae-sung admitted. "We only had 3 years, but they were good years, real years. I'd rather have that than nothing." He reached over and took Aisha's hand, his fingers lacing through hers. It was a simple gesture, but it sent electricity up her arm. "Can I tell you something?" he asked quietly. "Anything. I'm starting to feel guilty. About Soo-yeon, about how much I think about you." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "She's only been gone 3 months. I should still be mourning. I should be faithful to her memory. But when you walk into a room, I forget everything else. When you smile at Min-jun, I want to capture that expression and keep it forever. When you feed him, I imagine." He stopped himself. "Imagine what?" Aisha whispered. Jae-sung's eyes met hers, dark and intense. "I imagine you're his mother, really his mother. Mine too. I imagine this is our family, our life, our forever." Aisha's breath caught. "Jae-sung, I know. It's too soon, too complicated, too dangerous." He brought her hand to his lips and kissed her palm. "But I can't stop myself from feeling it." They sat like that for a long moment, hands joined, the weight of unspoken things heavy between them. "I should go to bed," Aisha said finally, though she made no move to stand. "You should," Jae-sung agreed. But he didn't let go of her hand. "This is a bad idea," Aisha whispered. "Terrible idea," he confirmed. "We have a professional relationship, boundaries. Very important boundaries. So we should stop this. Right now. Absolutely." Neither of them moved. Then Jae-sung leaned in, slowly, giving her every chance to pull away. His lips were inches from hers when his phone rang, shattering the moment. He answered with a sharp curse in Korean. "What?" A pause. Then his expression hardened. "I'll be right there." He hung up and stood, his jaw tight. "I have to go. There's a situation at the warehouse." "Is it dangerous?" "It's always dangerous." He cupped her face, his thumb brushing her cheek. "Lock the doors after I leave. The guards are outside. If anything happens, press the panic button. Promise me." "I promise." He kissed her forehead, lingering there for a heartbeat. "I'll be back before Minjun's morning feeding." He wasn't. At 6 a.m., when Minjun woke up crying, Jae-sung still hadn't returned. Aisha fed the baby, trying not to worry. But by 8 a.m., when Mrs. Kim arrived and asked where Mr. Park was, Aisha's anxiety had spiked. At 9 a.m., the panic button on her nightstand started flashing red. Aisha grabbed it with shaking hands. A voice came through immediately. "Mrs. Park, this is Kim Tae-young, head of security. Mr. Park has been injured. He's being transported to a private medical facility. A car is downstairs to bring you to him." "How badly is he injured?" "He's stable, but he's asking for you." Aisha's hands trembled as she dressed and grabbed Minjun. Mrs. Kim appeared, taking the baby. "I stay with him. You go to Mr. Park. He needs you." The car ride across town was the longest 15 minutes of Aisha's life. The medical facility turned out to be a floor in a nondescript office building, equipped like a hospital but staffed by doctors who asked no questions. Tae-young, a man in his 40s with sharp eyes and a permanent scowl, met her at the entrance. "He's in room 3. The bullet missed anything vital, but he lost a lot of blood." "Bullet?" Aisha's voice came out high and thin. "There was an ambush at the warehouse, the Volkov brothers. 3 of our men were injured." Mr. Park took a round to the shoulder, getting them out. Tae-young studied her face. "He's going to be fine, but he's been asking for you since he regained consciousness." Aisha found Jae-sung in a hospital bed, his shoulder bandaged, an IV in his arm. His face was pale, but his eyes were clear when he saw her. "You came," he said, his voice rough. "Of course I came." Aisha pulled a chair to his bedside and took his hand. "You got shot. Barely grazed me. There's a bandage the size of a dinner plate on your shoulder. That's not a graze." A weak smile crossed his face. "I've had worse. That doesn't make me feel better." Aisha fought tears. "You said you'd be back for Minjun's feeding. You said it was just a situation." "I lied. I didn't want you to worry." "Well, I worried anyway." A tear escaped, rolling down her cheek. "You could have died." Jae-sung reached up with his good hand and wiped the tear away. "I'm not going anywhere. I promised to protect you, remember? Can't do that if I'm dead." "This isn't funny." "I know. I'm sorry." His expression sobered. "This is my life, Aisha. This is what you signed up for when you agreed to help Minjun. Violence, danger, late-night calls and hospital visits. If you want to leave, I understand. I'll still pay you. I'll still keep you safe. But you don't have to." Aisha kissed him. She didn't think about it, didn't plan it. She just leaned down and pressed her lips to his, cutting off his words. Jae-sung froze for a heartbeat. Then his hand came up to cup the back of her head, holding her in place as he kissed her back. It was gentle at first, questioning. But then it deepened, became hungry. Aisha poured 2 weeks of tension and fear and longing into that kiss, and Jae-sung matched her intensity despite his injury. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Jae-sung stared at her with wonder. "What was that for?" he asked. "For scaring me. For being brave and stupid. For making me care about you when I shouldn't." Aisha rested her forehead against his. "For being alive when you could be dead." "Aisha, I know this is complicated. I know we have reasons to keep this professional. But I can't anymore, Jae-sung. I can't pretend I don't think about you constantly. That I don't wait for you to come home. That seeing you hurt doesn't tear me apart." Jae-sung's good arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her as close as his hospital bed would allow. "I've been trying so hard to keep my distance, to respect our agreement, but every night I lie in my bed knowing you're just down the hall, and it's torture." "Then stop torturing yourself," Aisha whispered. "Stop torturing us both." He kissed her again, deeper this time. His hand tangled in her hair, and Aisha melted against him, careful of his injury. A throat cleared from the doorway. They broke apart to find Tae-young standing there, his expression professionally blank. "Apologies for the interruption. The doctor wants to check your vitals, Mr. Park." Jae-sung zigged. "Give us 5 minutes." Tae-young nodded and left, but not before Aisha saw the hint of a smile on his face. "We're not very subtle. she said, cheeks burning. I don't care who knows. Jae-sung's thumb brushed her lower lip. You're mine now. I'm done pretending otherwise. I'm not a possession. No, you're something far more precious. He pulled her down for another quick kiss. You're the woman I'm falling in love with. Aisha's heart stopped. Jae-sung, I know it's fast. I know it's insane. But I feel it, Aisha. I felt it on the subway when you held my son. I felt it when you moved into my home. I feel it every single day when I watch you care for Min-jun with so much love. His eyes searched hers. Tell me I'm not alone in this. You're not alone, Aisha admitted. I'm falling too. I'm terrified, but I'm falling. Jae-sung's smile was radiant despite his pain. Then fall with me. Let's be terrified together. The doctor returned, forcing them apart. Aisha waited outside while Jae-sung was examined, her lips still tingling from his kisses, her heart racing with the enormity of what they'd just admitted. Tae-young appeared beside her, offering a cup of coffee. He's going to be fine. Bullet went clean through. No permanent damage. Thank you, Aisha said, accepting the coffee. Can I give you some advice, Mrs. Park? I'm not Mrs. Park. You will be. Tae-young's expression was knowing. I've worked for Mr. Park for 8 years. I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. Not even his wife. Aisha's eyes widened. That's not I wouldn't. I'm not saying he didn't love Mrs. Soo-yeon. He did, but this is different. This is, Tae-young struggled for the word, consuming. He would burn the world for you, and you should know that before you commit to this life. I'm just here to help with Min-jun. Keep telling yourself that. Tae-young took a sip of his own coffee. But the moment you fed his son, you became part of this family, and Mr. Park protects family with everything he has, including his life. The words settled over Aisha like a weight. She thought about Jae-sung taking a bullet to protect his men, about the way he looked at her like she was precious, about the promises he'd made. What if I can't handle this life? She asked quietly. The violence, the danger, all of it? Then you leave before you get in too deep. Tae-young met her eyes. But I think you're already in too deep, Mrs. Park. I think you've been in too deep since the moment you got on that subway. He was right. Aisha knew he was right. She'd fallen for Jae-sung, fallen for Min-jun, fallen into a life she'd never imagined and couldn't escape. The question was, did she even want to? Jae-sung came home that evening against doctor's orders, his arm in a sling but his stubbornness intact. Aisha helped him to his bedroom, acutely aware of the intimacy of being in his private space. The room was masculine and minimalist. Dark furniture, a massive bed with black silk sheets, floor-to-ceiling windows with a view that would make real estate agents weep. But what caught Aisha's attention was the photo on his nightstand. Soo-yeon, laughing, her hand on her pregnant belly. I should put that away, Jae-sung said, following her gaze. Don't. Min-jun should know his mother. Aisha helped him sit on the bed. And I'm not trying to replace her. You're not replacing her. He paused, choosing his words carefully. You're something entirely different. Something I didn't know I needed. Aisha sat beside him, close enough that their thighs touched. Tell me about today. What really happened? So he did. About the ambush at the warehouse, the Volkov brothers trying to steal a shipment, about Jae-sung and his men fighting back, about getting his men out even after he'd been shot. Why didn't you just let the shipment go? Aisha asked. Why risk your life? Because if I show weakness, others will attack. The moment they think I can't defend what's mine, I lose everything. His jaw tightened. In my world, strength is survival. And what was in the shipment? Computer parts, legitimate imports for my tech company. He must have seen her skeptical expression because he added, I'm serious. I've been transitioning to legal business for 2 years now. The warehouse holds inventory for my electronics distribution company. Everything properly documented, taxes paid, completely above board. Then why would the Volkovs want it? To hurt me? To cost me money and credibility? Jae-sung's good hand found hers. They don't care what's in the shipment. They care that taking it makes me look weak. Aisha absorbed this. So you got shot over computer parts. I got shot protecting my business and my men. That's different. Is it? She turned to face him fully. Because it looks the same from where I'm sitting. You're still bleeding, still in pain, still risking your life for things that can be replaced. Not everything can be replaced. His eyes locked with hers. You can't be. Min-jun can't be. That's why I have to be strong. to protect what truly matters. Aisha leaned in and kissed him softly. Then promise me you'll be more careful. Because Minjun needs his father. And I. She paused, the admission sticking in her throat. You what? Jae-sung prompted gently. I need you too, she whispered. More than I should. Jae-sung pulled her onto his lap, mindful of his injury, and kissed her deeply. His good hand cupped her face, his thumb stroking her cheek, and Aisha melted into him. Stay with me tonight, he murmured against her lips. Not for anything beyond sleep. Just, I want to hold you. You're injured, which is why I need you close. Please, Aisha. She shouldn't. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was moving too fast, that she was crossing lines that couldn't be uncrossed. But her heart, her traitorous heart, wanted nothing more than to sleep in Jae-sung's arms. Let me check on Minjun first, she said. The baby was sleeping peacefully in his crib, his little chest rising and falling with each breath. Aisha stood watching him for a moment, marveling at how much her life had changed. 3 weeks ago, she'd been alone and grieving. Now she was contemplating sleeping in a Mafia boss's bed while caring for his son. When she returned to Jae-sung's room, he'd changed into sleep pants and managed to get his shirt off despite the sling. The sight of his bare chest, marked with scars and the fresh bandage on his shoulder, made Aisha's breath catch. Come here, he said, patting the bed beside him. Aisha climbed in, still wearing her jeans and t-shirt. Jae-sung pulled her against his good side, his arm wrapping around her. This is nice, he murmured, his lips against her hair. You're warm, Aisha said, snuggling closer. You're perfect. They lay in comfortable silence, listening to each other breathe. Outside, the city never slept. But in this moment, they'd found peace. Aisha? Jae-sung said eventually. Thank you for coming to the hospital. For caring that I was hurt. Where else would I be? Most people would have run, would have seen that as their excuse to leave this life behind. Aisha tilted her head to look at him. I'm not most people. No, he agreed, kissing her forehead. You're extraordinary. She fell asleep in his arms, feeling safer than she had in months. At 2 a.m., the baby monitor woke them. Minjun's cries filtered through, and Aisha started to get up. I'll get him, Jae-sung said. You're injured. I can carry my son with one arm. He was already moving, grabbing a robe. You stay comfortable. I'll bring him here. Jae-sung returned minutes later with a fussy Minjun. Aisha sat up and arranged pillows, then took the baby and began to nurse. Jae-sung climbed back into bed beside her, watching with that same intense expression he always wore during feedings. What are you thinking about? Aisha asked softly. How this feels like a family. How I want this to be real, not just temporary. His hand rested on her knee. How I'm going to ask you to marry me someday. Aisha's eyes widened. Jae-sung, not now, not yet, but someday. He met her gaze steadily. I want you to know that's where this is heading for me. So if that's not what you want, if you're planning to leave after 6 months, tell me now before I fall any deeper. Aisha's heart hammered. Marriage, to a man she'd known for 3 weeks, to a dangerous man whose life involved bullets and blood. But when she looked at him holding his son, at the way his eyes softened when he looked at her, at the gentleness beneath his dangerous exterior, she couldn't imagine leaving. I'm not planning to leave, she said quietly. I don't know what the future holds, but I'm not planning to leave. Jae-sung's smile was radiant. That's enough for now. After Minjun finished eating and fell back asleep, Jae-sung carried him back to the nursery. When he returned, he pulled Aisha close again, and they slept tangled together until morning. The next few days passed in a blur of domesticity and healing. Aisha helped Jae-sung change his bandages, fed Minjun, worked on her CPS cases. Mrs. Kim taught her to make bulgogi and kimchi. Taeyong updated Jae-sung on business while Aisha pretended not to listen. On the 4th night after the shooting, Aisha was feeding Minjun in the nursery when Jae-sung appeared in the doorway looking troubled. What's wrong? She asked immediately. We need to talk. After Minjun's asleep. The baby finished eating and drifted off. Aisha followed Jae-sung to his office, a room she rarely entered. It was all dark wood and leather, with monitors showing security feeds of the building. Sit, Jae-sung said, gesturing to the couch. He sat beside her, taking her hands. The Volkovs know about you. Aisha's blood ran cold. How? They have surveillance on the building. They've seen you coming and going with Minjun. They've put it together that you're not just a nanny. His grip tightened. They're going to use you against me. How do you know? Because they sent me this. He showed her his phone. A text message with a photo of Aisha at the park with Minjun, taken from a distance. Below it, pretty woman, delicate, easy to break. Aisha's hands started shaking. They're threatening me. Yes. Which is why you can't leave this building without a full security team. Which is why I need you to wear this. He pulled a small device from his pocket. GPS tracker. You keep it on you at all times. If something happens, we can find you immediately. Jae-sung, this is my life. Our life now. His eyes were fierce. I told you it would be dangerous. I told you people would target you. But I also promised to protect you. And that's exactly what I'm going to do. What if they try to take Minjun? They won't get the chance. I'm pulling Minjun from the park. From any public place. He stays in the building with you and a rotating security detail. Jae-sung cupped her face. I know this is restrictive. I know it's frightening. But it's temporary. I'm handling the Volkov situation. Handling how? You don't want to know. Yes, I do. Aisha pulled back. If I'm part of this life, if I'm a target, then I deserve to know how you're protecting us. Jae-sung studied her for a long moment. Then he nodded. I'm cutting off their supply lines. Buying out their distributors. Making it impossible for them to do business in the city. When they're weak enough, I'll make them an offer. Leave New York or die. Most will leave. And the ones who don't will be handled. His voice was flat, and Aisha understood exactly what that meant. You'll kill them, if necessary, to protect you and Minjun. Without hesitation, Aisha stood and walked to the window, her mind spinning. This was real. The danger, the violence, all of it. She wasn't just playing house with a reformed criminal. She was in a relationship with a man who would kill to keep her safe. Tell me the truth, she said without turning around. How many people have you killed? Silence. Then, more than I can count. Less than I'd kill to keep you alive. Aisha closed her eyes. That should horrify me. But it doesn't. No, it should, but it doesn't. She turned to face him. What does that make me? Jae-sung stood and crossed to her, pulling her into his arms. It makes you someone who understands that the world isn't black and white. That sometimes violence is necessary to protect the people we love. I do love you. Aisha whispered against his chest. God help me, I love you. Jae-sung went very still. Then he tilted her face up, his eyes searching hers. Say it again. I love you, Park Jae-sung. I love your strength and your gentleness. I love how you are with Minjun. I love how you make me feel safe, even in the middle of danger. Tears streamed down her face. I love you, and it terrifies me. I love you too, he said, his voice rough with emotion. I love everything about you. Your kindness, your courage, your beautiful heart. He kissed her softly. And I will never let anything happen to you. That's a promise. They made love for the first time that night, right there in his office with the security monitors glowing in the background. It was tender and desperate, both of them needing the physical connection to match the emotional one. Afterward, lying on the leather couch with their clothes scattered around them, Jae-sung held Aisha close. Move into my room, he said. Officially. No more pretending we're keeping this professional. What will people think? That I'm the luckiest man alive. He kissed her temple. I don't care what people think, Aisha. I only care about you and Minjun. Okay, she agreed. I'll move my things tomorrow. They eventually made it to his bed, where they made love again. Slower this time, learning each other's bodies. Jae-sung was reverent and possessive by turns, and Aisha discovered a passion in herself she'd never known existed. When the 2 a.m. feeding rolled around, Jae-sung brought Minjun to their bed, not his bed anymore, but theirs, and Aisha nursed the baby while Jae-sung's arm wrapped around them both. This was her family now, dangerous, complicated, and absolutely hers, and she wouldn't trade it for anything. 3 weeks of relative peace followed. Aisha moved completely into Jae-sung's bedroom. They fell into a routine. Mornings with Minjun, afternoons when Jae-sung worked and Aisha handled CPS cases, evenings as a family, nights in each other's arms. But peace in Jae-sung's world was always temporary. It shattered on a Tuesday afternoon. Aisha was in the living room with Minjun, playing on a blanket, when the apartment's security alarm began blaring. Before she could process what was happening, Tae-young burst through the door with 4 other guards. Get to the safe room, he barked. Now! Aisha scooped up Minjun and ran. The safe room was hidden behind a bookshelf in Jae-sung's office, a reinforced panic room with food, water, communications equipment, and enough weapons to fight off a small army. Tae-young punched in the code and pushed her inside. "Lock it behind me. Don't open it for anyone except Mr. Park or me. Understand?" "What's happening?" "The Volkovs are making their move. They've breached building security." His face was grim. "Mr. Park is on his way, but until he gets here, you stay hidden." The door slammed shut. Aisha locked it with trembling hands and retreated to the corner with Min-jun, who was starting to cry, picking up on her fear. "Shh, baby, it's okay," she whispered, even though she wasn't sure it was okay at all. The safe room's monitors showed security feeds from throughout the building. Aisha watched in horror as men in dark clothes moved through the lobby, guns drawn. Jae-sung's guards engaged them, and the sound of gunfire echoed through the speakers. This was real. This was happening. Min-jun screamed, and Aisha's milk let down from stress. She tried to calm him, tried to nurse him, but her hands were shaking too badly. On the monitor, she saw Jae-sung enter the building with more men. He moved like death itself, efficient and brutal, taking down Volkov's men with precision. But there were so many of them. A bang on the safe room door made Aisha scream. "Mrs. Park, it's Tae-young. Let me in." Aisha rushed to unlock the door. Tae-young stumbled in, blood streaming from a cut on his forehead. "Are you hurt?" Aisha asked, even as she locked the door behind him. "Flesh wound. We've got a problem." He moved to the monitors, his jaw tight. They got past the lobby. "They're on this floor." As if to confirm his words, Aisha heard gunfire from somewhere close. Too close. "Where's Jae-sung?" "Fighting his way to you." Tae-young pulled out his gun and checked the ammunition. "But there are at least 20 of them. He might not make it in time." The safe room door had a small window made of bulletproof glass. Through it, Aisha saw a man appear in the office, Caucasian, covered in tattoos, holding an assault rifle. He smiled when he saw her through the window. "There you are," he said in Russian-accented English. "The African whore Jae-sung is so desperate to protect." Tae-young positioned himself in front of Aisha and Min-jun. "That door won't hold forever if they use explosives," he said quietly. "If they breach it, you take Min-jun and hide in the back corner. Make them come to you. What about you?" "I'll buy you time." His expression was calm, accepting. "It's my job to protect you. To protect him. And I will, even if it costs my life." "Tae-young, promise me." He turned to look at her. "Promise me you'll protect Min-jun, no matter what happens." "I promise." More men appeared in the office. They surrounded the safe room door, examining it. "Can they get in?" Aisha whispered. "Eventually. These doors are designed to hold for 30 minutes under assault. After that," he didn't finish the sentence. An explosion rocked the building. The monitors went dark. Smoke filled the office beyond the safe room. "They're using flashbangs to disorient us," Tae-young said. "When the door comes down, cover Min-jun's ears and eyes. The noise and light will be overwhelming." Aisha held Min-jun close, her body curled around him protectively. This couldn't be happening. She couldn't die here, leaving Min-jun orphaned. She couldn't. Another explosion. This one right against the safe room door. The reinforced steel held, but barely. "Get in the corner," Tae-young ordered. "Now." Aisha scrambled to the back of the safe room, pressing herself into the corner with Min-jun. She could hear them working on the door, hear the drill and the voices speaking Russian. She thought about Jae-sung, about his promise to protect her, about the future they'd started building together. "Please," she prayed. "Please let him get here in time." The drilling stopped. In the sudden silence, Aisha heard a voice she recognized. "Step away from the door." Jae-sung's voice was cold, deadly. "Or I paint these walls with your blood." Gunfire erupted. Aisha buried her face against Min-jun, trying to shield him from the sounds. It seemed to go on forever. Shots, screams, bodies hitting the floor. Then silence. "Aisha," Jae-sung's voice rough with fear. "Open the door." Tae-young moved to unlock it. Jae-sung burst through, covered in blood and gunpowder residue, his eyes wild until they found her. "You're okay," he breathed, crossing to her. "You're both okay." He pulled them both into his arms, and Aisha felt him trembling. She looked over his shoulder at the office. Bodies everywhere, blood pooling on the expensive carpet. The aftermath of violence she'd only heard. "Is it over?" she asked. "For now." Jae-sung pulled back to examine her, his hands running over her face, her arms, checking for injuries. Did they hurt you? Did they touch you? No. Taeyoung kept us safe. Jae-sung turned to his head of security, who was leaning against the wall, exhausted. Thank you. I won't forget this. Just doing my job, sir. You did more than that. Jae-sung's voice was thick with emotion. You protected my family. I'm forever in your debt. More guards appeared, beginning to clean up the scene. Someone led Taeyoung away to get his head wound treated. Mrs. Kim materialized with fresh clothes for Min-jun and a blanket for Aisha. Jae-sung guided them out of the office, past the bodies, to the bedroom. He locked the door behind them and finally collapsed onto the bed, pulling Aisha and Min-jun with him. I thought I'd lost you, he said into her hair. When I got the call that they'd breached the building, I thought... His voice broke. We're okay. We're here. I killed 14 men to get to you. 14. His arms tightened around them. And I'd do it again. I'd kill 100, 1,000, anyone who tries to hurt you. Aisha should have been horrified, should have been traumatized by the violence, by the bodies in the office. But all she felt was relief that Jae-sung had come for them, that he'd kept his promise. What happens now? She asked. Now I end this once and for all. His voice was hard. The Volkovs declared war. They came into my home, threatened my woman, endangered my son. That's a death sentence. Jae-sung, don't ask me not to do this, Aisha. I can't show mercy. Not after this. She pulled back to look at him. I wasn't going to ask you for mercy. I was going to ask when. Something shifted in his expression. Tomorrow night. I'm calling a meeting with their leadership. They'll either surrender or die. And if they don't surrender, then I'll make sure they can never threaten my family again. He cupped her face. I need you to understand something. After tomorrow night, there will be blood on my hands. A lot of it. If that changes how you feel about me, I need to know now. Aisha thought about it. Really thought about it. About the man she loved and the things he would do to protect them. It doesn't change how I feel, she said finally. I love you. I love that you would fight for us. I love that you keep your promises. And I understand that sometimes protection requires violence. You're sure? I'm sure. She kissed him softly. Just promise me you'll come back. That you won't throw your life away for revenge. I promise. I have too much to live for now. That night, they made love with a desperate intensity, both of them needing to reaffirm their connection after coming so close to losing everything. Jae-sung was possessive and tender by turns, and Aisha gave herself over completely. Afterward, as Min-jun slept in his crib nearby, and the city sparkled beyond the windows, Aisha lay in Jae-sung's arms and tried not to think about tomorrow night. But when she finally slept, she dreamed of blood and gunfire, of losing him to the violence that defined his world. She woke before dawn to find Jae-sung already dressed in a black suit, checking his gun. You're leaving early, she said. I have preparations to make. He came to sit on the bed, taking her hand. I need to ask you something. Anything. If something happens to me, if I don't come back. Don't say that. Listen. His grip tightened. If I don't come back, Taeyoung has instructions. He'll get you and Min-jun out of the city, set you up somewhere safe, with enough money to live comfortably for the rest of your lives. Min-jun's trust fund will be under your control. Everything I have will go to him, with you as guardian. Tears streamed down Aisha's face. You're coming back. But if I don't, you're coming back because I need you. Min-jun needs you. We're a family, and families don't abandon each other. Jae-sung pulled her into his arms. I love you, Aisha Turner. You saved my son's life, and then you saved mine. You made me believe in second chances. I love you too, so come back to me. He kissed her deeply, desperately, like it might be the last time. Then he pulled away and went to Min-jun's crib, lifting the sleeping baby carefully. My son, he whispered in Korean, kissing Min-jun's forehead. Be good for your mother. I'll see you soon. He handed Min-jun to Aisha, and she saw tears in his eyes. Jae-sung, I'll be back before midnight, I promise. Then he was gone, leaving Aisha alone with a sleeping baby and a fear so profound it threatened to swallow her whole. The day passed in agonizing slowness. Aisha fed Min-jun, played with him, tried to work on CPS cases. But her mind was on Jae-sung, on what he was doing, on whether he would keep his promise to come home. Taeyoung stopped by at noon with updates that weren't really updates. Mr. Park is in meetings. Everything is proceeding according to plan. What is the plan? Better you don't know, Mrs. Park. At 6 p.m., Mrs. Kim brought dinner, but Aisha couldn't eat. She sat by the window, watching the city lights come on one by one, holding Minjun and praying. At 9 p.m., her phone rang. Unknown number. Hello? Mrs. Park? A man's voice, Russian accent. I have a message from my employer. Park Jae-sung is currently our guest. If you want to see him alive again, you'll come to the address I'm about to text you. Alone. No guards. Tell anyone. And he dies. The call ended. A text arrived seconds later with an address in Brooklyn. Aisha's hands shook. This was a trap. Obviously a trap. But if there was even a chance Jae-sung was in danger, she called Tae-young immediately. I just got a call, she said, her voice surprisingly steady. The Volkovs claim they have Jae-sung. They want me to come alone to an address in Brooklyn. Tae-young cursed in Korean. It's a trap. They're trying to draw you out. But what if it's real? What if they really have him? They don't. Mr. Park is. Tae-young stopped himself. I can't tell you where he is, but I can tell you he's safe and surrounded by our men. This is a ploy to kidnap you. You're sure? Positive. Don't leave this apartment, Mrs. Park. That's an order. Aisha hung up and stared at her phone. Tae-young was probably right. This was obviously a trap. But what if he was wrong? At 10:30 p.m., her phone rang again. This time, when she answered, she heard Jae-sung's voice. Aisha, don't. The sound of a blow, a grunt of pain. Then the Russian voice again. That was Park Jae-sung. Still think this is a trap? You have 1 hour to get to the address, or we start cutting off fingers. Come alone or he dies. The call ended. Aisha's mind raced. That was Jae-sung's voice. She was sure of it, which meant either this was an elaborate fake, or Tae-young was wrong and Jae-sung really was in danger. She couldn't risk it. She couldn't gamble with his life. She called Tae-young back. I'm going. Mrs. Park, don't. That was his voice. They have him. I'm not letting them hurt him because I was too scared to act. Then I'm coming with you. They said alone. I don't care what they said. I'm not letting you walk into a trap. They argued for 5 precious minutes before reaching a compromise. Tae-young would follow at a distance with a team. Aisha would go in alone as instructed, but backup would be close if she needed it. Mrs. Kim would stay with Minjun. The baby was sleeping peacefully, unaware his mother was about to do something incredibly stupid. Aisha kissed his forehead. I'll be back soon, sweet boy. I promise. She strapped on the GPS tracker Jae-sung had given her weeks ago. She checked the small handgun in her purse, the one she'd learned to shoot at his insistence. Then she walked out of the apartment into the waiting car. The address was an abandoned warehouse in Red Hook. As Aisha pulled up, she saw exactly 0 signs of life. No cars. No guards. No indication anyone was here. This was definitely a trap. But she'd come this far. She had to see it through. Aisha got out of the car, her hand on the gun in her purse. The warehouse door was ajar. She pushed it open and stepped inside. The space was cavernous and dark, lit only by a few industrial lights hanging from the ceiling. In the center of the room, tied to a chair, was Jae-sung. Aisha's heart stopped. Blood ran down his face from a cut above his eye. His suit was torn. His hands were bound behind him. Jae-sung. She started running toward him. Don't, he shouted. Aisha, it's a trap. Run. Men materialized from the shadows. 6 of them, all armed. They surrounded her before she could react. So nice of you to join us, Mrs. Park, one of them said. He was older, with silver hair and cold blue eyes. Dmitry Volkov, she realized. The leader of the organization. Your husband has been very resistant to our negotiations. Perhaps you'll be more persuasive. Let him go, Aisha said, her voice shaking. This is between you and him. Leave me out of it. But you're his weakness. The thing he cares about most. Dmitry gestured to his men. Bring her here. Rough hands grabbed Aisha. She fought, but they were stronger. They dragged her to where Jae-sung sat, forcing her to her knees in front of him. I'm sorry, Jae-sung said, his voice raw. I'm so sorry. I should have protected you better. It's not your fault. Aisha reached for him, but the guards pulled her back. How touching, Dmitry said. True love conquers all, yes? But here's the problem. Your husband cost me 40 men, millions of dollars in lost business, and considerable face among my associates. For that, he must pay. Name your price, Jae-sung said flatly. Money, territory, whatever you want. Just let her go. Oh, I'll let her go. After you watch me break her. Dmitri pulled out a knife, and Aisha's blood ran cold. For every one of my men you killed, I'll make a cut. 40 men, 40 cuts. By the time I'm done, she'll be begging for death. Touch her and I'll tear you apart with my bare hands, Jae-sung snarled. You're not in a position to make threats. Dmitri grabbed Aisha's hair, yanking her head back. Any last words, Mrs. Park? Yes, Aisha said. She looked at Jae-sung, memorizing his face. I love you. No matter what happens, I love you. I love you too, Jae-sung said, tears streaming down his face. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Dmitri raised the knife. And then the world exploded. The warehouse doors crashed open. Armed men poured in from every entrance. Tae-young's voice boomed through a megaphone. Drop your weapons. You're surrounded. The Volkov men hesitated, looking to Dmitri for orders. That hesitation cost them. Gunfire erupted. Aisha screamed and dropped to the ground, covering her head. Above her she heard Jae-sung roaring in Korean, the sound of his chair breaking as he freed himself. The fight lasted maybe 60 seconds, but it felt like an eternity. When the shooting stopped, Aisha lifted her head to find all 6 Volkov men on the ground. Dead or dying, she couldn't tell. Jae-sung was free, standing over Dmitri's body with blood on his hands. He'd killed the Russian with his bare hands, even bound. Aisha, he breathed, turning to her. Are you hurt? No, I'm okay. She stumbled to her feet, and Jae-sung pulled her into his arms, holding her so tight she could barely breathe. Tae-young approached, his expression grim. All targets neutralized. The building is secure. Good. Jae-sung's voice was hard. Make sure there are no survivors, and send a message to the rest of the Volkov organization. Anyone who comes after my family meets the same fate. Yes, sir. Aisha pulled back to look at Jae-sung. You weren't really captured, were you? No. I let them think they captured me. Let them call you and offer the trade. I knew they'd never let me go, but I also knew you'd come for me. His hand cupped her face, and I knew Tae-young would follow you with an army. This was the only way to get them all in one place. You used me as bait. I used myself as bait. You were supposed to stay safe at home. His expression turned fierce. But you came anyway. You walked into danger for me. Do you know how terrifying that was? Watching them grab you, knowing I couldn't protect you until backup arrived? About as terrifying as thinking you'd been captured. Jae-sung kissed her then, hard and desperate. Don't ever do that again. Don't ever risk your life for me. Then don't risk yours for me. That's different. No, it's not. Aisha held his face in her hands. We protect each other. That's how this works. He kissed her again, softer this time. Around them, Tae-young's men were cleaning up the scene, loading bodies into vehicles. The aftermath of violence that would never make the news. Let's go home, Jae-sung said. Min-jun needs his mother. They rode back to Manhattan in silence, Aisha tucked against Jae-sung's side. His arm never left her waist, like he needed the physical connection to prove she was really okay. At the apartment, Mrs. Kim was waiting with a sleeping Min-jun. He was perfect, not a peep. Aisha took the baby and held him close, breathing in his baby scent. This was what mattered. Not the violence, not the danger. This child, this family. Jae-sung dismissed everyone and locked the apartment. Then he led Aisha to their bedroom, where they undressed in silence and climbed into bed with Min-jun between them. It's over, Jae-sung said quietly. The Volkovs are gone. The other organizations know what happens when someone threatens my family. We're safe now. Promise. I promise. He reached across Min-jun to take her hand. And tomorrow we start our real life, the one without constant danger, the one where we can just be a family. Aisha wanted to believe him. And looking at the way he gazed at their son, at the peace in his expression, she thought maybe she could. They fell asleep like that, the 3 of them together, finally safe. 6 months later, Aisha stood in front of a mirror in a private room at the Plaza Hotel, staring at her reflection in disbelief. The wedding dress was everything she'd never let herself dream about. Cream-colored silk that hugged her curves before flowing to the floor. Off-the-shoulder sleeves that showed just enough skin to be elegant. A cathedral train that would make a dramatic entrance. You look like a queen, her mother said from the chair behind her. Mama had flown in from Atlanta 2 weeks ago and immediately declared herself in charge of wedding preparations. "I can't believe this is happening," Aisha whispered. "Believe it, baby girl. That man loves you something fierce." The wedding had been Jae-sung's idea, proposed 3 months ago with a ring that probably cost more than a house. They'd kept the engagement short, both of them were too impatient to wait long. A knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. Mrs. Kim entered, carrying Min-jun in a tiny tuxedo. The baby was 9 months old now, crawling everywhere and saying "Mama" and "Appa" with equal enthusiasm. "Someone wants his mother," Mrs. Kim said with a smile. Aisha took Min-jun carefully, mindful of her dress. The baby grabbed her face with both hands and babbled happily. "Are you ready to see Appa get married?" she asked him. "Ready to officially become my son?" Because that was the other part of today. Jae-sung had filed paperwork to make Aisha Min-jun's legal mother. The adoption would be finalized next week, but in every way that mattered, she was already his mom. Another knock. This time Tae-young appeared, looking uncomfortable in a formal suit. "Mr. Park sent me to check on you. He's getting nervous." "Tell him I'm not running away," Aisha said with a smile. "I told him that. He didn't believe me." Tae-young's expression softened. "For what it's worth, Mrs. Park, you've made him happier than I've ever seen him. Thank you for that. He's made me happy too." Tae-young left, and Aisha's mother stood. "It's time, baby. You ready?" Was she ready? To marry a man who'd been part of organized crime? To officially join a family with a dangerous past? To commit to a life that might never be completely safe? Yes, she was ready. Because Jae-sung had kept every promise. He'd protected her. He'd transitioned his business completely legitimate, selling off anything illegal and focusing on his tech company and real estate holdings. He'd made their home a sanctuary. Most importantly, he'd loved her without reservation. Every day, he showed her how much she mattered, how much Min-jun mattered, how committed he was to their family. The ceremony was small. Just 50 guests in the hotel's most elegant ballroom. Jae-sung's remaining business associates, Aisha's friends from CPS, Misus, Kim and the household staff, Tae-young and his security team. Aisha walked down the aisle alone, Min-jun in her arms. She'd insisted on carrying him. This was their day, their family coming together. When she saw Jae-sung waiting at the altar, her breath caught. He wore a black tuxedo that made him look like a movie star. His hair was perfectly styled, but it was his expression that made her heart race pure love and devotion. She reached him and handed Min-jun to Mrs. Kim in the front row. Then she took Jae-sung's hands, and the world fell away. The officiant spoke about love and commitment, but Aisha barely heard it. She was lost in Jae-sung's eyes, in the silent conversation passing between them. When it came time for vows, Jae-sung spoke first. "Aisha, 9 months ago, you saved my son's life on a subway. You didn't know me, didn't owe me anything, but you helped anyway. That kindness changed everything. You brought light into my darkness. You made me want to be better, to build a life worth living." His voice broke. "You showed me that second chances are real, that love can heal even the deepest wounds. I promise to spend every day of the rest of my life proving I'm worthy of your faith in me. I promise to protect you, cherish you, and love you until my last breath. You and Min-jun are my entire world." Aisha was crying before he finished. She took a breath and spoke her own vows. "Jae-sung, you came into my life when I thought I'd lost everything. You showed me that endings can become beginnings. That family isn't just blood, it's choice, commitment, and love. You gave me a son to care for when my arms were empty. You gave me a home when I was lost. You gave me hope when I'd forgotten what that felt like." She squeezed his hands. "I promise to stand beside you through everything, to be your safe place when the world is dark, to love you and Min-jun with everything I have. You are mine, and I am yours, forever." The officiant pronounced them husband and wife. Jae-sung pulled Aisha into a kiss that made the guests cheer. It was passionate and tender, a promise sealed in front of everyone they loved. The reception was joyful chaos, Korean and American food side by side, music from both cultures, dancing that went late into the night. But Aisha's favorite moment came later, when the party had died down and most guests had left. She found Jae-sung in a quiet corner, holding a sleeping Min-jun. "Hey," she said softly. "Hey, wife." His smile was radiant. "How does it feel to be Mrs. Park?" Sighed, "Perfect. How does it feel to be stuck with me forever?" Like I won the lottery. He shifted Minjun to one arm and pulled Aisha close with the other. I have something to tell you. Oh? I bought us a house in Westchester. Big yard, good schools, far enough from the city that Minjun can grow up safe. His eyes searched hers. I want to give him a normal life. I want to give you peace. What do you think? I think it sounds perfect. Aisha kissed him softly. When do we move? Next month. After the adoption is finalized and things settle down. They stood like that for a long moment, the three of them together. Their family. Their forever. Jae-sung, Aisha said eventually. Thank you. For fighting for us. For choosing this life. I didn't choose this life. I chose you. Everything else followed. He kissed her forehead. Best decision I ever made. That night, in their honeymoon suite, they made love with a tenderness that brought tears to both their eyes. This was more than physical. This was two souls joining, two broken people who'd found healing in each other. Afterward, lying tangled together, Jae-sung said, I want to give you a proper honeymoon. Somewhere tropical, just us. Mrs. Kim can watch Minjun for a week. A week without our baby? I don't know if I can handle that. We'll FaceTime him constantly. Jae-sung grinned. Besides, I want you all to myself. No interruptions, no responsibilities. Just you and me and a beach. That sounds perfect. They talked long into the night, planning their future, the house in Westchester, maybe another baby someday, college funds and birthday parties and all the normal things they'd never thought they'd have. At dawn, Aisha stood by the window watching the city wake up. Jae-sung joined her, wrapping his arms around her from behind. What are you thinking about? He asked. About how different my life is now. A year ago I was alone and broken. Now I have everything. We have everything, he corrected. And it's only going to get better. Aisha believed him. Because Jae-sung Park kept his promises. Always. The house in Westchester was everything Aisha had dreamed of. 4 bedrooms, a sprawling yard, a tire swing that Jae-sung had hung from the old oak tree. Safe, warm, filled with love. Aisha sat on the back porch, watching Minjun push his little sister on that swing. He was 5 now, starting kindergarten in the fall, bilingual in Korean and English, and the most gentle big brother she'd ever seen. His sister, Naomi named for Aisha's daughter, because some loves never die, was 3 and fearless. She demanded higher pushes, laughing with pure joy. In the kitchen, Jae-sung was making dinner. He'd learned to cook in the years since leaving his criminal life behind. His bulgogi was almost as good as Mrs. Kim's now. Life was simple, normal, everything they'd fought for. Jae-sung's tech company had gone public last year, making him legitimately wealthy. He'd donated millions to children's charities in Soo-yeon's name. He'd set up scholarships for underprivileged kids. He'd become the man he'd always had the potential to be. Aisha had finished her MSW and now worked part-time for a nonprofit helping foster families. She brought home babies sometimes, caring for them temporarily, using her gift for nurturing to help children in need. Their life was beautiful, hard-won, precious, and absolutely theirs. Mama, Naomi called. Watch me. I'm watching, baby girl. Jae-sung appeared on the porch, wiping his hands on a towel. Dinner's ready in 10 minutes. He sat beside Aisha and took her hand, their fingers automatically lacing together. This sitting together, watching their children play, just being was their favorite time of day. I have news, Aisha said. Good news or bad news? Depends on your perspective. She placed his hand on her stomach. We're pregnant again. Jae-sung's eyes widened. Really? Really. 8 weeks. I found out this morning. He pulled her into his arms, laughing with pure joy. Another baby. God, Aisha, you keep making me the happiest man alive. You're not worried? 3 kids is a lot. 3 kids is a blessing. He cupped her face. Remember when you thought you'd never be a mother? Look at you now. Aisha did look. At Minjun teaching Naomi to pump her legs on the swing. At the home they'd built together. At the life they'd created from impossible circumstances. Do you ever miss it? She asked. The power, the danger, all of it? Never. Jae-sung didn't hesitate. I have everything that matters right here. You, our children, our future. The rest was just noise. That night, after the kids were asleep, they stood in Minjun's doorway watching him sleep. Do you think he remembers? Aisha whispered. That first night on the subway? No, but I do. I remember thinking my life was over, that I'd never find anyone to help him. Jae-sung pulled her close. Then you appeared. Like an angel. You saved us both. We saved each other. Yeah, he agreed. We did. They walked to their bedroom hand in hand. The same bed they'd shared for 5 years. The same space where they'd built their life together. One night at a time. As Aisha fell asleep in Jae-sung's arms, she thought about that subway train, about the crying baby and the desperate father, about the choice she'd made to help a stranger. That choice had changed everything, had given her a family, a home, a love she'd never imagined possible. Sometimes the wrong train leads to the right destination. Sometimes a crying baby leads to a soulmate. Sometimes breastfeeding a stranger's child on a midnight subway leads to forever. And Aisha Turner Park, formerly lost, now found, wouldn't change a single moment of the journey that had brought her here. Home. If you enjoyed Aisha and Jae-sung's journey from a desperate subway encounter to a beautiful forever, please subscribe to our channel for more touching romance stories. Tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what your favorite moment was. Don't forget to like this video if their love story touched your heart. What story should we tell next? Share your ideas below.